Hello and welcome to World Talks here on TVP World. I'm Diana Skaya. French President Emmanuel Macron's brief visit to Poland comes just days after he hosted U.S. President-elect Donald Trump and Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky for discussions ahead of the formal reopening of Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. Now, also, while the notion of a European peacekeeping force is gaining some support, Polish Premier Donald Tusk now seems reluctant, suggesting that Poland has yet to decide where it stands on the proposal. Now, to dive deeper into all of this, I welcome Wojciech Przybylski, Editor-in-Chief of the Visegrad Insight, to the studio. Thanks so much for being with us here this evening on World Talks.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Wojciech, so let's first talk about this meeting between Donald Tusk and French President Emmanuel Macron. What did this aim to reinforce here exactly between the two countries?
The two countries are preparing a bilateral agreement, a treaty, announced treaty. This treaty will strengthen cooperation in terms of security, economy, and will be a guiding treaty, like many bilateral treaties that Poland is now signing, with the countries that we are aligned on geopolitical front and that we see a leadership on European affairs together. So that's a preparation, ongoing preparation to what Poland and France want to do together in Europe, but also with impact on the world affairs, especially in the light of Ukraine, but also when it comes to transatlantic relations. I think it's a recognition, essentially, of a strong partnership that Prime Minister Donald Tusk shares with Emmanuel Macron over common position on Europe.
Let's talk about now for a moment about peacekeepers. I mean, Tusk did say that Polish peacekeepers present in Ukraine would not be an option right now. What other solutions could France and Poland see in order to give this security guarantee to Ukraine from a resurgence of conflict if an agreement actually happens between Russia and Ukraine, particularly when Donald Trump assumes office now?
If there is a ceasefire and Ukraine sees real-time guarantees of upkeeping this ceasefire, Europe understands by now that it will be a time to reload for Russia, to prepare for another attack, and hence we have a lot of preparation at home in our countries to do. But in terms of delivering some credible response to Ukraine, that is, Poland's position is at least to send a NATO contingent, so combined of multinational forces. Poland is reluctant to send its forces for good reasons. Part of it is about historical grievances with Russia and the perception of Polish troops on the ground of Ukraine, which is somehow as controversial as German troops on the Polish grounds. This is, in the past, has been provoking a lot of tension between the two nations and has been exploited by Russian disinformation tactics to sow division between Poland and Ukraine. So Poland is refraining from sending directly our troops, is prepared to send any other help, logistics, training, machinery, whatever is possible to be sent apart from what has been sent already. But at the same time, Poland is replenishing its stocks of ammunition, of the equipment, and doing training and upgrade of the size of the military in Poland. As a country on the front line of neighboring with Russia, neighboring with Ukraine and Belarus, we need our uniformed servicemen present on the ground here in Poland that allows other nations in NATO to participate and to provide stability and security on the continent.
The fact that this meeting actually took place now right before Poland assumes the EU presidency, how effective do you think this was? I mean, that France's president was here to talk about this, particularly about Ukraine.
It's important for political reasons for Donald Tusk to enable more initiatives where Polish government seems fairly stable in the context of all other governments in Europe, especially those most important governments in France and Germany, where the ability to make policies is now hindered by the primary goal of winning next elections and securing a stable majority in case of France for electing the new government after the last one has fallen. So it's looking up to Poland to offer not so much leadership, but a safe space for guiding the discussion and decision-making on Europe. So we become a framework nation of European decision-making. And France is most welcome, as I said, for also bilateral political reasons to come whenever.
Wojciech, let me ask you, so now the foreign ministers of Germany, Poland, France, Italy, Spain met in Berlin today. A lot of talk there, of course, on Ukraine. What are some of the key messages that we can take from this meeting? I mean, Polish Foreign Minister Sikorski was also present at this meeting. What can you tell us about that?
So the meeting is of the so-called Big Five plus UK. These are the five biggest EU members. Poland, Germany and France cooperate under the Weimar Triangle cooperation. There is Spain and Italy. They are also the biggest economies in Europe, and together, because of the number of votes in the Council, they constitute the majority of the European peoples. Not all of them, but the necessary ones to lead all other countries in Europe in key decision-making. And they were asserting commitment to Ukraine, security, to financial needs of Ukraine, both because of military effort, but also to upkeep the Ukrainian state and public finances, to help the country survive as a nation state, which is as important as winning the war eventually. There is a strong commitment to the transatlantic bond, the will to do more on that front, and to be able to address jointly transatlantic tensions should they arise, and we expect some tensions related to American trade protectionism or any tensions around tariffs. And finally, it closes, the declaration closes on the notes on Syria and the Middle East, where Europe needs to be ready to respond to its immediate neighborhood problems, where again, we don't know if Donald Trump will be willing to continue American presence in the Middle East, stabilizing the region, or he will, according to also the policies we've seen before him in Obama times, gradually pull out from the region, leaving it to potentially more hostile conflicts that will result in tensions, including migration to Europe.
Let me ask you this, though. I mean, there was emphasis at this meeting on the fact that if we look at Ukraine, particularly, that peace talks in Ukraine should not be held without Ukraine's involvement. Now, in your view, do you believe that this approach is really the proper way to effectively go forward, or would you say that there are risks in excluding Russia from some diplomatic discussions?
I mean, Europe may have declarations, but the peace plan we have seen so far that comes from US, a major supporter of Ukraine in terms of security, involves pressures and pull factors for Russia and a similar one for Ukraine. This is Kellogg's plan, Trump nominee for the Ukraine and Russia special representative. And the plan is, well, we'll see what are the results, but it will involve talking to both. So I think we can assert that Ukraine is necessary. I don't think there is necessarily any other option from US, new incoming administration, to in any way exclude Ukraine from any of the arrangements that will be made. But the tensions will arise, and this kind of declaration is important to show that we are behind Ukraine, that the West is also committed and will be committed, will stay committed, because the declaration says about the future commitment until Ukraine is fully secure. And it asserts that these 5 countries plus UK see the future of Ukraine both in NATO and the EU, which is so important, and is really the solution that could guarantee Ukraine's stability and the European security overall.
Do you think that the fact also that all these comments are coming out of this meeting, and with everything that you just mentioned, I mean, they're saying, there is no peace talks without, of course, Ukraine on the table, would you say that this is not an expression of fear that Donald Trump is actually going to be getting along with Putin?
I don't think there is a fear of Donald Trump getting along with Putin. I don't think Mr. Putin wants to get along with anyone. He's in a desperate situation. He wants to destroy Ukraine. This is more of a fear that the plan that Donald Trump will put on the table and will push Russia is not going to work. Ukraine may be under constant pressure of waves of Russian soldiers dying needlessly in Ukraine, but getting ground because of the resource of Ukrainian armies are not infinite, and they depend on the support of the West. So we might see a failure of diplomatic efforts, even those we might not entirely like by Donald Trump, and pressures from Moscow, regardless, to take control of the territories of Ukraine and lead to its political and moral destruction, which obviously is the goal Putin has set forth. So showing these links, showing assertiveness, but also support for the transatlantic effort, including Donald Trump's leadership here, are essential to provide some cohesion of efforts. Also, that this leads somewhere that is not the worst case scenario.
And what do you think that European countries can do to strengthen Ukraine's position on the battlefield or any future in peace talks, particularly if there will be no peacekeepers in Ukraine anytime soon?
Well, we've heard just on the news moments ago that Donald Trump thinks that giving long-range weapons to Ukraine, allowing strike targets in Russia, is a mistake. He's likely to pull away these capabilities from Ukraine on the grounds of American weapons. There are British, French, and even more importantly, German weapon systems that are capable of striking these targets in Russia that can limit the operations of Russian military against Ukraine and support for any terrorist actions across the world, which are in the key and vital interest of Europe. It needs to be a united front, united action. So this diplomatic effort may lead to common response in case it is needed.
Thank you so much, Wojciech Przybylski, Editor-in-Chief of Visegrad Insight, for being with us here on World Talks.
Thank you.
And that's all for this edition of World Talks here on TVP World. I'm Diana Skaya. Thanks for watching, and don't go away. Up next, news with Maciej Mikos.